Welcome everyone to an Out to Lunch webinar brought to you by the Earth Science Information Partners Education Committee. I think most of you are probably familiar with this Zoom panel here, but just in case, you know where the chat is. And if you have a question, what we're going to have here is 10 minutes of presentation and 5 minutes of Q&A. We're small enough that we can probably also just unmute and talk if you want to when you have a question, or you can write your question in the chat, either way. Next slide, please, Katie. So again, this webinar series are 10-minute demonstrations of Earth Science data tools and resources with 5 minutes for Q&A. And you can view our past presentations here, either at our wiki page or at our YouTube playlist. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our presenter for today, Katie Boyd.
Thank you so much, Carla. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me still. Yes. Good?
Good and clear.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm Katie Boyd. As I mentioned in the chat, I generally work for an education and outreach group that's based at a NOAA Cooperative Research Institute. These are cooperative institutes around the country, usually a joint partnership between NOAA and the university. I work for an education outreach group there, and one of the projects that we have is CLEAN. And I know some folks here might be familiar with CLEAN, so I'm going to just run through a little bit of what it is and then get into some of the new things that we have that might interest some of you. So CLEAN is a resource for teaching about climate and energy. We have sort of three big parts of CLEAN that we think is useful for educators. The main attraction is our collection, where we have over 700 online free to access teaching resources, including learning activities, data visualizations, short videos are the main three categories. Some of those include like simulations and other things online that you can do. We try to limit it to smaller activities, so not large units. So we break up units into their different activities, but you can still find them. And we make sure everything is good. The main thing that we provide is actually a review process. We don't develop these resources, but we search for them on the internet and then review them. We have a team of scientists and educators who help us review and give feedback on the resources, which we then put into our website, and it allows you to easily search through many different resources through different search tags we've put up there, as well as see the reviewer comments about each resource. You know what you're getting into, and then we link back to the resource page itself so you can find those resources. And the other big thing that we offer is support and PD, professional development for teachers. And a lot of that lives in this section of the website, our guidance for teaching climate and energy. We have background pages on all the different climate topics that you may want to teach about, including how to teach it, misconceptions students might have and how you address those, and all kinds of information to help you beef up your own background knowledge. We also have ways to put together different units using the resources in our collection around NGSS and a few other folks that have put together unit guides for us. We have webinars, a STEM Flash newsletter that we tie in resources every couple of weeks to current events, and quite a few other things. And I'm going to get into some of those other things in just a minute here. And then the third piece of CLEAN is our network. We host an email list and weekly teleconference calls of folks who work in climate and energy education and want to communicate about it, including many educators and supporters of educators like myself who post different opportunities and things like that through the email list there and have conversations about best practices as well. So if you want to go to CLEAN, this is the cleannet.org is the main website, and I can put that into the chat as well here.
Katie, I just put those into the chat for
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then, yeah, the climate.gov. So CLEAN is actually syndicated to NOAA's climate teaching portal as well. So if you search NOAA's climate.gov/teaching database, you are also searching CLEAN. So that's nice that we are sort of the official resource for NOAA in terms of teaching climate. I just show this because I think it's one of the more important parts of CLEAN, but you do not need to understand it, but it just really demonstrates the rigorous review process we put all of our resources through. So you can see we actually have multiple rounds of review with different folks with different science and education backgrounds looking at this. And at one point we actually have a review camp where we bring people together to talk about it. And then we send it off to a scientist who has an expertise in that topic to make sure that the science is up to date and accurate. So we have some new things on CLEAN I've been trying to market out there, and one of the main reasons that Carla asked me to present today, which I'm really excited about. We have been spending the last 2 years or so putting together these pages on the National Climate Assessment and different resources for teaching different aspects of the climate assessment. And I'm gonna show you in a minute here, but once you get to this page, you can click on the map here and go to the different regions, or on the left, you'll see there is navigation. You can go into each individual region, and we have different summaries of kind of the key messages that come out of the report, and then teaching resources that align with each of those key messages for each region. And again, this has been reviewed by folks who have knowledge of this report as well as the resources. So that's a nice resource. And then I recently put together this page. So again, these are not resources we've developed, but we're trying to ingest them into our collection. And we, it takes us 6 months or a year to go through that whole review process. So in the meantime, I've actually highlighted this project that put together a full climate course with culturally relevant resources. So really thinking of, and they did it by region again. So it's really nice because you can go in and see the different literacy framework, the big ideas in climate. So similar to what we have on our teaching guidance pages, they have a whole set of pages for those as well, but really each region has its own set, and it's really geared towards the tribal values and cultural values of those regions and how they tie into the climate literacy framework and the big ideas in climate. So definitely check that out. They also have a lot of resources around remote sensing and other how do you get data and things like that, mostly at the college level, but can also be taught at high school level. We've also then those pages I mentioned, all our background pages that go through the different climate topics, which is similar to what that Living Landscapes project does. We've taken all of those pages and translated them into Spanish. So you can get the teaching climate pages in Spanish, teaching energy pages in Spanish, or you can just go to our teaching climate and energy section, and you'll see that we have these buttons here that will take you to the Spanish translations of all of those pages. We're really excited about that. That also took us a couple of years to get that out there. And then finally, I wanted to mention we have a couple of webinars coming up in April. So we have a webinar series we put out every semester with 6 or so regular webinars on how to teach climate and energy topics. But these are actually special webinars I'm putting together just for April this year, kind of around Earth Day. One is focused on elementary teaching, and we have this Jessica Bean who organizes manages the Understanding Global Change project at UC Berkeley, and they have some really nice resources with concept mapping and other things like that for teaching about this local phenomena that she's geared towards elementary teachers. And then I have a middle and high school teacher who's going to be presenting about how he has dealt with teaching climate change with students in a community that have a lot of folks who are resistant to talking about climate change, a lot of denialist sort of families. So I'm really excited about that one. And I think those were all of the things I was going to mention. And thank you so much, Carla, for putting all of these links in. I actually had them and was going to put them into the chat myself, but it looks like you've pretty well covered it all. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Does anyone, and then I wanted to just really quickly show y'all on the website here. This is clean. So if you just go in like this guidance and teaching, this takes you into a lot of the different things I talked about. This is where you can get those background pages in Spanish, the culturally relevant, and then this toolbox. I mentioned some of the newer things, the webinar and our NCA pages, but we also have like a page similar to what the webinar is going to talk about. If you do struggle with talking about this subject to students, we have the newsletter page. So we do this every couple of weeks, as I mentioned, and we catalog all of them here. So you can always go back and see what we've done in the past. And then these are our creating units guides. And so, yeah, our toolbox just has a lot of different places you can go to get resources. So I will just mention that toolbox as a good place to go and put the link to that as well. And I think that was pretty much all I wanted to go through. So I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Katie, did you just want to maybe showcase the culturally relevant climate change collection? That might be useful for folks because it's
Yeah,
new.
I would love to. So this is the page I've put together on Clean. Oh, and this looks kind of funny here. Just different, web browsers and things like that make these things sometimes do those kinds of things. So I apologize about those big gaps on my page right now. But yeah, I've put this together to show it really goes through the different aspects of what they've put together. But I actually will just show you what I was talking about. If you go to their website here, they have really nice where they've put together this understanding climate science. So they have these resources as well. There's some labs on remote sensing, but they have this understanding climate science set of tutorials. And so you start out kind of with the introduction to the whole thing, and then you have to click, as I mentioned, which region. And so like I would click in Southwest, and then this will take you into their pages where you can actually learn the 9 essential principles of climate science, but really based in the cultural values. So this is that climate course that they've put together where you really go through each of the different literacy framework principles that we also have. So that's what we also highlight here. We have 8 technically. They've added one because they wanted one more based around action on theirs, but it still follows the same sort of framework.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
So at this time, Katie can showcase other things for you if you like, or we'd like to open it up to questions. You can put them in the chat, or you can simply unmute yourself and ask a question. We're small enough that that won't be a problem.
Oh, I'll mention too, in our toolbox, one other thing that I know a lot of folks are dealing with right now is virtual teaching. We've been working to, so I'll just show you what our actual collection looks like when you search through it. So you can see on the right here, we have these nice tags where you can search by text, but you can also use these to figure out limit by grade, range, resource type, and GSS and other things like that. We have other categories as well. Data set use might be useful for ESIP folks. But this is where we've been trying to put a virtual teaching tag in, but it takes a while to go back through 700 resources and tag them all. So the other thing that we've done is we've put together these pages about how you can search the collection, some tips on how to utilize a clean collection to find things that are better for virtual learning. And then we also put together this page of resources that we think are really good in the virtual space. Jay Odom or Jodam, I'm not sure. I think it's an initial and last name, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's Judith Odom. I just wanted to ask a question about, you were talking about those 9 principles. Is there a link for that?
Yeah, so the best link I'm going to put in there is this culturally relevant climate teaching. This is the clean page that I just showed you,
Okay.
that talks about this project and then links back out to it. But I can just also put in, this is for the Southwest. So you'll just have to change each one of theirs on these principles. Just they have different links for each of the different regions. So I'll put this in here, but there's not like a generalized link to these 9 principles because you have to kind of choose your region as you go in, if that makes sense. But that's the link to the one I'm on right now.
Okay, thank you. Because this is very, very helpful. I'm just getting ready to start a unit on climate and climate change. So this is this comes right on time for me.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. And yeah, please reach out. I'll also put my email in the chat here. Please reach out to me if you have any questions around clean or just climate teaching in general. I'm happy to
Thank you.
answer and help. I will also mention there's a summer institute happening, and let me see if I can find easily the link to that. So if anyone's interested in doing more climate teaching and getting some professional development, there's a really nice summer institute that's happening, and I'm one of the cohort leaders for this. So if you have any questions about it, you can ask me as well. But if anyone's interested in a nice, good, solid virtual professional development opportunity for teaching climate, I'll just mention that one.
Did you put that in the chat?
I did. I just put that in the
Okay.
chat, the link to that.
Thank
Yeah.
Oops.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree that culturally relevant climate teaching, I'm super excited to get connected with that project and be able to highlight them and try to bring them into clean, because just so needed. We don't have enough of those kinds of resources. So definitely encourage everyone to check that group out. Any other questions?
Anything else you would like for Katie to point you to? There is an awful lot on the clean website. So it can be overwhelming at times.
Yes, it definitely can be. And I will just say that, like, for me, one of the easiest ways to kind of, if you just go back to the homepage here, I can show you. Yeah, for me, one of the easiest ways are these big buttons to kind of navigate around, because these take you to the 3 big parts of clean I was talking about. This is the collection, guidance, and then the network. But always on the left too, it's nice because this opens up and you start to see how you can kind of find things under these different, we have the NGSS guides under the collection, and then all the toolbox stuff under the guidance pages. So yeah, but also I put my email in the chat, and yeah, I know that there's so much in clean and we like to keep it that way, but it can be a little hard to navigate. So if you do ever struggle finding anything or have any questions about it, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. And yeah, that's a great point that somebody just put into the chat. That's usually how I recommend it, is search around, get a sense of it, and then let me know if you have questions and can't find the thing you're looking for. But definitely worth checking out the site, because there's a lot in there.
Well, thank you very much, Katie. Just to remind folks, we record these webinars, so it will be available for you to look at later. And we'll also post up the slides so that you will have the links, the direct links to these different things. And yeah, thank you. This is actually, can you just click one of those links? Can you click the first one? Yeah, that'd be perfect. So you can just see. So if you scroll down, you will see that all of the keep going. All the YouTube videos are there, and when the presenters gave us a PowerPoint, then it's there as well. So this is for a number of years.
Awesome, that's great.
A lot of these are still very relevant resources that you might want to check out in the future. So unless there are any,
I've seen some great resources come through here.
Yeah, unless there are any other questions, we will